The world often sleeps soundly through the darkest hours, but for some, 3:17 a.m. marks the beginning of an inexplicable terror. It always starts with a sound, a deep, resonant metallic echo that seems to emanate from nowhere and everywhere at once. In a room shrouded in oppressive darkness, this chilling reverberation pierces the silence, a prelude to something far more sinister. Then, a whisper, barely audible yet laden with dread, breaks the stillness. Most people who hear this sound don't make it to morning. This ominous declaration hangs heavy in the air, a stark introduction to a phenomenon that defies all rational explanation. Across continents and time zones, an unsettling pattern began to emerge, linking countless individuals by a shared, terrifying experience. They all awoke precisely at 3:17 a.m., their sleep shattered by the very same unsettling metallic sound. It wasn't a dream, nor a collective hallucination. The reports were too consistent, too widespread to be dismissed. The first documented case, meticulously recorded in 2006, involved a man named Arthur Jenkins, a reclusive librarian. Initially, Arthur only heard the sound, a disorienting clang that rattled his very bones, leaving him breathless and bewildered. But then, the anomaly began to evolve, escalating from a mere auditory disturbance into something far more insidious. The metallic echo started to coalesce, forming words, a distorted, multi-voiced phrase that clawed at the edges of his sanity. "Open the door," it commanded, a chorus of unseen entities whispering in unison, their voices a cacophony of dread. This transformation from a simple sound to an active, malevolent presence marked a terrifying turning point. It was no longer just an anomaly. It was an interaction, a direct, chilling invitation to breach the veil of safety. The phenomenon has shifted, revealing a deeper, more disturbing intent behind its nocturnal visitations. The metallic clang was merely the herald, the precursor to a demand that would forever alter the lives of those who heard it. Arthur Jenkins, like many others, found himself at the precipice of an unknown horror, his fate hanging in the balance. The chilling question lingered: what awaited those who dared to heed the voice's sinister command? The 3:17 phenomenon was no longer a passive observation, but an active, malevolent entity seeking entry. Its presence, once a mere auditory disturbance, had solidified into a palpable threat, demanding a response. The world, unknowingly, was teetering on the brink of an invasion, one whispered command at a time. The metallic sound, once a mystery, now served as a chilling countdown to an inevitable, terrifying confrontation. And, with each passing night, more individuals across the globe would awaken to its dreadful, insistent call. The phrase "open the door" echoed in their minds, a terrifying mantra of an unseen, encroaching darkness. This was merely the beginning, the first terrifying chapter of a global enigma that defied all human understanding. The metallic sound and the subsequent command were just the initial probes testing the boundaries of our reality. The true horror, many would soon discover, lay beyond the threshold of their own doors, waiting patiently. The 3:17 a.m. phenomenon had irrevocably changed the fabric of their lives, introducing an element of profound dread. It was a silent, insidious invasion, one that began with a sound and culminated in a chilling, whispered command. The sound itself was not fully human, yet not entirely alien either, a perplexing auditory paradox. It was as if multiple voices, distinct yet harmonized, spoke in unison, creating a cacophony that resonated deep within the soul. This unsettling chorus, devoid of individual identity, amplified the terror, making it feel both intimate and universal. Each person who experienced it described the same unsettling sensation, a feeling of being singled out yet part of a larger, unknown design. The distortion in the sound was not merely an effect, it was an intrinsic quality, a signature of its otherworldly origin. It defied conventional acoustic analysis, leaving experts baffled and victims tormented by its unique, terrifying timbre. The sound was a tapestry of whispers and guttural tones, woven together into a single, cohesive, and deeply disturbing message. It was a sonic manifestation of pure dread, designed to disorient and compel, stripping away any sense of security. The consistent report of this specific, multi-voiced quality across all cases solidified its supernatural nature. It wasn't a trick of the mind, it was a deliberate, calculated assault on the senses, preparing the ground for its command. The sound was a prelude, a psychological weapon that softened the resolve of its targets before delivering its ultimate directive. It bypassed rational thought, embedding itself directly into the subconscious, where fear held sway. The sheer consistency of the description from different people in different places was perhaps the most terrifying aspect. It suggested a singular, intelligent source behind the phenomenon, orchestrating this global symphony of terror. The sound was not random, it was precise, purposeful, and chillingly effective in its objective. It was a sound designed to break down resistance, to erode the will, and to prepare the listener for what came next. The metallic echo, the multi-voiced chorus, the distorted quality, all were components of a meticulously crafted psychological attack. It was an auditory illusion that felt profoundly real, blurring the lines between waking nightmare and tangible threat. The sound was a constant, unwelcome companion, replaying in the minds of its victims long after 317 had passed. Its memory lingered, a haunting echo that served as a grim reminder of the nightly visitation and its chilling demand. This unique auditory signature became the hallmark of the 317 AM phenomenon, a terrifying identifier for those afflicted. It was a sound that promised not just a disturbance, but an irreversible change, a crossing of an unseen threshold. The victims often described a sense of unreality, as if the very fabric of their world was being stretched and warped. The sound was a harbinger, signaling the arrival of something that defied the natural order, something profoundly wrong. It was a sound that demanded attention, that commanded action, and that left no room for doubt about its intent. The metallic resonance, the layered voices, the unsettling distortion, each element contributed to its terrifying power. It was a sound that stripped away comfort, replacing it with a pervasive sense of vulnerability and impending doom. The sound was not just heard, it was felt, vibrating through the bones, a visceral experience of pure, unadulterated fear. It was the sound of an unseen entity knocking on the door of reality, patiently waiting for an invitation. And the chilling phrase, "Open the door," was its ultimate terrifying request, a gateway to the unknown. Following the chilling command to open the door, the narrative delves into the terrifying consequences that unfolded. Across countless bedrooms, individuals reacted in a spectrum of fear and defiance. Some, paralyzed by dread, ignored the distorted, multi-voiced plea emanating from the darkness. Others, driven by a morbid curiosity or a desperate need for answers, cautiously approached their doors. And then, tragically, there were those who, against every instinct of self-preservation, actually opened them. The immediate aftermath for those who succumbed to the command remains shrouded in an impenetrable mystery. No eyewitness accounts, no frantic calls, no desperate pleas ever emerged from their homes. The narrator confirms, with a chilling certainty, that many were simply gone by morning, vanished without a trace. Their beds were empty, their belongings undisturbed, leaving behind only a gaping void and unanswered questions. No explanation, no struggle, no sign of forced entry ever accompanied these disappearances. Yet, even more horrifying were the accounts from those who, against all odds, chose to stay. These survivors, forever haunted by the 317 phenomenon, reported a different, equally terrifying experience. They described standing frozen, listening to the insistent, multi-voiced command. When they finally mustered the courage to peer through peepholes or crack their doors open, they initially saw nothing. The hallway beyond was empty, bathed in the faint glow of distant streetlights. But then, seconds later, a profound shift occurred, a palpable disturbance in the air. They recounted a horrifying sensation, an undeniable certainty that something entered their homes. It wasn't seen, not in the conventional sense, but its presence was overwhelmingly felt. A survivor's testimony, etched with terror, vividly describes hearing it breathe. A deep, rasping inhalation and exhalation, unmistakably physical, confirming its tangible presence. This wasn't merely an auditory hallucination or a trick of the mind. It was real. The breathing was slow, deliberate, and impossibly close. A chilling symphony in the suffocating silence. It moved with an unseen grace, a heavy, deliberate shuffle that echoed in the confined space. The air grew heavy, thick with an unnatural cold that seeped into their bones. A faint, almost imperceptible scent, like ozone mixed with something ancient and metallic, permeated the room. They described a pressure, an invisible weight pressing down, making it difficult to even draw breath. The survivors, huddled in their beds, could only listen, their hearts pounding against their ribs. They heard it explore, a soft brush against furniture, a barely audible creak of floorboards. It lingered, a silent, unseen predator, assessing its new environment, its new prey. The terror wasn't just in the sound, but in the absolute certainty of its malevolent intent. One survivor recalled a faint, rhythmic clicking sound, like claws gently tapping on wood. Another described a feeling of being watched, an intense, burning gaze from an unseen entity. The silence that followed its entry was more terrifying than any scream. It was the silence of a hunter, patient and deadly, observing its trapped quarry. Then, as abruptly as it had arrived, the presence receded, the cold dissipating, the breathing faded, the pressure lifted, leaving behind only the lingering scent of dread. The survivors were left trembling, their minds irrevocably scarred by the encounter. They had not opened the door, yet something had still breached the sanctity of their homes. The phenomenon continued its relentless spread, a global epidemic of dread and disappearance. From bustling metropolises to isolated rural towns, the 317 chime echoed, always at the precise moment, always with the same metallic sound and the chilling command. The question loomed, a terrifying shadow over humanity. Was it merely a sound? Or was it something far more sinister, an active entity attempting to breach our reality? The evidence, whispered in hushed tones by the few who remained, pointed to the latter. It was an invasion, subtle yet devastating, occurring nightly across the world. The true nature of the entity, its origins, and its ultimate goals remained unknown. But one thing was terrifyingly clear. It was growing stronger, its reach expanding. The world was slowly, inexorably being consumed by the 317 phenomenon. Each dawn brought new reports of missing persons, new tales of unseen horrors. The line between reality and nightmare blurred with every passing night. The chilling question persisted. What would happen when everyone heard the call? What would happen when no one was left to resist the insidious command? The phenomenon was not just a mystery. It was a countdown, a ticking clock, a countdown to a future where the doors might not just be opened, but torn asunder. The world held its breath, waiting for the next 317, dreading its arrival. The chilling question of whether it's just a sound or something actively trying to breach our reality. The story concludes with a stark warning, a final, desperate plea for understanding. A warning that echoes the terror of those who face the unseen. A plea to comprehend the true nature of the 317 phenomenon before it's too late and the door opens for good.